And now everyone can hear what we're saying for the first 5 seconds of this video.
Oh,
Woo-hoo.
10 seconds now.
Yep.
Get
Intro
all your F
time.
bombs out.
Hello, people. We're back here for another episode of the Friday Night Movie Club. And hey, Rick finally decided to show up for once. Hey, how you doing today, Rick?
I'm doing great. I didn't, I was off, and there's no baseball game today, so that's why I'm able to join you guys.
Yeah, baseball. Let that be your excuse. But he's the reason why we're here so late tonight on a Friday night, here to talk about the latest Chinese big monster movie called The Meg 2, The Trench. And joining us, we have a couple of people from our other show who decided to actually watch this movie this week. We have Mr. Orange Hat Reviews here once again. How you doing today, Orange?
Good to see you guys.
We have C.S. Johnson joining us here tonight.
Everybody.
And hey, Rob's back too, because he missed the bar room this week too.
That's right.
God damn it, Rob.
Well, good. You're making the money.
So yeah, there's a few things that we're going to talk about just before we get into the movie discussion here, because I really want to start off with this story here, and it's this whole thing with James Gunn and Warner Brothers, and I'm trying to figure out what exactly is the end game here, because it feels like to me that I can't see this James Gunn DC universe coming to fruition. I feel like this is all just a big distraction in order to essentially set up this company to be sold again. And there was a rumor about a year ago that apparently NBC Universal was looking at the possibility of buying, let's say, Warner Brother properties. I don't think they can buy the whole company en masse, because that would be like a massive, congressional monopoly type thing that they would have to get into. But I'm just looking at the amount of debt that they're in. I'm looking at the future of Warner Brothers, and it's like there's no way that they can possibly think that they're going to somehow right this ship, which has been broken for a good 20 years now. I mean, you can say that this thing's been toast ever since the AOL merger back in like the early 2000s. But we're going to go ahead and start off with this story here. And this is essentially the idea that James Gunn has opened the door for Gal Gadot to return as Wonder Woman in the DCEU. Now, this kind of flies directly in the face of everything that James Gunn has said over the course of this last year about how we're just going to reboot everything, that all the movies that are in production or in post-production, we're just going to release them, and then we're just going to reboot and move on. Nothing from the Zack Snyder universe is going to stick around. It's going to be a whole new thing. But Gal Gadot somehow is also going to stay around, which we'll get to this here in a second, because it feels like that if this is true and she is coming back for a third movie, that the decision to get rid of The Rock and to get rid of Henry Cavill may just be a little bit personal. But this is the one that broke a couple of days ago. Gal Gadot confirms her return as Wonder Woman, reveals that she's working on with DC head James Gunn and Peter Safran on a third solo movie. Now, apparently, what's her name? Patty Jenkins is not going to be a part of this one because she had a big blow up with these guys like a year ago. So they confirmed that she's not going to be around. But apparently, they're still trying to hold firm with Gal Gadot here. But muddying the waters even further, James Gunn and Peter Safran is supposedly in plans to reset the DC cinematic universe, but they're confirming that she's coming back, so it's not going to be that much of a reset, I guess. The actress let it slip in her plans to reprise the role as Deanna in comicbook.com's interview regarding her new Netflix film, which we'll talk about next week. But she went and said that, I love portraying Wonder Woman. It's so close, dear to my heart. It says, from everything that I've heard from James and Peter, that we're going to develop a Wonder Woman 3 together. So they're all in on this, unless she's just lying. No further information regarding the early development of Wonder Woman 3 about how far they're into this film, if they have a script, if they're working on a script, or what the title is going to be. So there's nothing concrete here to go off of, but she has essentially confirmed that, they are developing a new Wonder Woman film. The news broke that, Gunn, Safran, and Gadot will develop that film from scratch. Said at the end of the day, it won't be a Wonder Woman 3, but it'll be a reboot with the same actress. Some of the things we saw her in previously will stay the same, some will change. So the idea is kind of a wishy-washy reboot of this whole thing. So I want to just start with the Gal Gadot aspect of this, because we can get into the Cavill stuff a little bit deeper here in just a moment, but this whole idea that over the last year, you told everyone, hey, look, we need to get rid of Henry Cavill. We got to reboot this whole thing, start from scratch, so that way we can build up the next 5, 10 to 15 years of superhero movies. It's like, okay, fair enough. But then you told us that, well, Cavill's too old to play Superman, even though he's like 39 years old, so we need someone who's younger. And then you cast your new Superman as someone who I think is only like 7, 8 years younger than Henry Cavill, not that much younger in the grand scheme of things. And now you're going to keep Gal Gadot, who's only about 2 or 3 years younger than Henry Cavill himself. So what was this whole idea, this whole narrative that you guys have been pushing for the last year about we need a new younger Justice League for the future, when you're just keeping around the same guys who are already in their 30s right now, who are not going to be leading this ship for the next 10, 15 years. So either there was some personal stuff that was going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, or this whole thing's just a giant front to sell up to a buyer here. Somebody can be like, well, look at all these projects that we got going on here. We got James Gunn in the head of this. Hey, you want to spend $40 billion to buy this ever-burning turd of a property here? I'm going to go ahead and start with you, Rob. I mean, what is your thoughts on Gal Gadot coming back as Wonder Woman? And what do you think of just James Gunn's direction of this whole DC thing in general? Because it sounds like it's been a mess from the start.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of history here with Hollywood, executives or producers sort of throwing their weight around. And I mean, at this point, it's James Gunn's vision that he's going to be allowed to bring to life. And I think maybe the idea here is that Gal Gadot is the one positive. And by the way, I'm talking about from a universal perspective of of Hollywood. Gal Gadot is sort of the one positive aspect of the DCEU that perhaps he feels like he can spin into his own thing, that she fits into what he wants to do. That's possible. I also think it's possible that isn't Warner Brothers the one doing the Cleopatra movie? So isn't Gal Gadot tied to Warner Brothers in addition to the Wonder Woman character? Maybe Rick knows that. I think it's Warner Brothers, but so that might have something to do with it. That there's a financial reason they want to tie themselves to her. But at the end of the day, I have no idea if James Gunn has some issue with The Rock and Henry Cavill, or he just wanted to get rid of the DCEU apart from Gal Gadot. I don't know. At this point, it's just like, I don't know how the Superman movie's going to work out. I guess nobody does, but I think they're just spinning their wheels at this point. I love Warner Brothers as a sort of legacy product, I guess, what they've meant and represented to Hollywood and movie making. And they're a great studio historically. That hasn't really been true for the last 20, 25 years. And it seems like they've been mismanaged. Even when David Zaslav got them and he tried to trim the fat, it's just like, there's just so much debt. There's so much to overcome. And I just don't think it's the right environment for entertainment to sort of to work in that manner. It's got to adapt to the world that currently exists with streaming and all that shit. So at the end of the day, it's sad because I'm, from being a little kid, I've always been a DC fan. Batman, Superman, the Justice League, etc. And to just kind of see it limp along or try this tired retread, it's pretty sad, honestly. And the larger picture of Warner Brothers too with that, it's kind of depressing, honestly.
Yeah, so Rick, I'll pass this one on to you. I don't think I really asked you so far. What's kind of your general thoughts on James Gunn, just in general, like as a filmmaker, and what do you think about his direction for this Warner Brothers property that we're seeing right now?
Well, I did enjoy the first Guardians of the Galaxy. Uh, I hated the second one. Uh, I didn't really care for the third one. He did both Suicide Squad films. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, he did
No.
the second one. The second
He
one.
did.
Yeah.
Oh, the second one, which I didn't like. Of course, I've not really been a fan of any of those films, except I did name Wonder Woman my best film of that year because I was really impressed at how good it was. I think really none of these people have plans. None of these people have ideas. They're just really just sort of making it up as they go along. I don't understand why Cavill was dumped, even though I don't think he can act. I think he was beloved by a large group of fans. So dumping him and really using age, which is very strange because most of the time it's women who say that they're aged out of something. It's rare when a man is aged out. And like he's what 39. He's not that much old. Well, he's probably a little bit older than most of you. So it just seems strange that they would use that as a reason. If you want to start fresh, you need to start fresh. Just completely start fresh, and just have new actors. But there's no plan. They're just making things up as they go along. They're just hoping that something will stick. And I'm still pitching my Legion of Doom movie. I want to see the Legion of Doom movie rather than the Justice League movie. But that's just me.
Someone has to.
Yeah.
Orange Hat, what is kind of your thoughts on this whole thing?
Well, there's no doubt that Gal Gadot is a top name right now. She really, or I liked her first Wonder Woman movie. The second one, there was a few decent parts in it, but overall the movie sucked. But she has proven that she has a lot of range. However, coming back as Wonder Woman when they say, "Oh, we are doing this whole reboot thing and nothing is or everything is getting a clean slate." Yeah, it does kind of raise questions. If she's coming back, why aren't the others coming back? Because that does scream personal. It does. Henry Cavill was beloved by many people, myself included. I thought he was a good Superman. And I think that DC made a promise that they didn't deliver on with the Black Adam movie. But with everything going on in Warner Brothers, it's like, you guys can't even make up your mind. I mean, you sound like you sound like a pregnant bipolar bitch right now. I mean, you can't even make up your mind. And then when you finally do, you change it the very next second. What is going on over there? Honestly, that's why I walked away from all these movies, including the movies that I thought were very good, including the movies that I thought were okay. I'm just sick and tired of Warner Brothers because honestly, their image and the people they endorse are rather unlikable. So yeah.
I mean, they're literally wiping out the likability of like their top tier guys in order to prop up James Gunn and the Funky Bunch at the moment. CS, are we being a little too hard on James?
No. So on some level I don't blame him for like keeping her because she is probably one of the few actresses out there that at least seems tolerable. You know, I mean, like if you put her next to Rachel Zegler, like in those Snow White promos, I mean, she's definitely got the much more of the glam, and I mean, she does seem like a little less like with it, I guess, in some of those clips I've seen. But like, she's got that aloof kind of star power that he could maybe, if he had a decent script and a good story, he could do something with it that would make money, you know. But the other hand, like they've had to reshoot Aquaman parts, and because somebody in it had a criminal record about stuff, they like he got canceled, and it's not even Ezra Miller bad. So it's like, why are you doing this? And it's not Amber Heard either, which is the funny part. And then I don't know, like, so I don't blame him for not having a plan, because it's very hard to make plans when you have so many like unknowns to play with, and you can really only count on some of the things that are certain, and that's just not like Hollywood's thing, you know. Even keeping a lot of the alternative media from sniffing around certain people, you know, it's been a lot harder for them the last couple of years. So,
but don't worry, I'm pretty sure that Booster Gold movie that we're getting in 5 to 6 years is gonna really bring Warner Brothers back to prominence here. But
No.
Booster
I think
Gold, could you
the
have picked somebody who was less appetizing? No,
no,
you really couldn't.
you've got Blue Beetle coming up, and that's going to rescue Warner Brothers.
I mean,
yeah,
Blue Beetle, Booster Gold. I feel like everybody in that commercial with Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill, when what's his name comes in as Lego Batman. Nobody cares about Lego Batman. Nobody cares about Blue Beetle. Nobody cares about Booster Gold. They're freaking pariahs, folks.
I've never even heard of Booster Gold. For a moment, I thought it was like Gold Bond. Isn't that like the powder?
Yes.
See, that's what much I know. Who's gonna know? I barely know Blue Beetle only because his character, or the revived version, was set in El Paso. But not gold, whatever it's called,
Booster Gold.
Booster
Once
Gold.
again,
I
it's
keep
about
saying-
family.
Family. It's about family.
let's pop over to this one real quick, because The Rock actually sat down with Kevin Hart. I think this was earlier today, or it got released earlier today, and he talked about essentially why Black Adam is no more, even though the film did, in his estimation, pretty well. Now, look, it did do about $400 million. It was nowhere near a success for Warner Brothers. I think it still ended up losing money at the end of the day, but seeing where all these other DC movies since Black Adam have landed, it's probably a massive success by comparison, because The Flash absolutely bombed, Shazam 2 flopped, Blue Beetle is about to be the worst out of the three. And then you have Aquaman 2 coming out, which is budget is like $300 million with all the reshoots, and you know they're not getting that money back. So by all comparisons, Black Adam wasn't really that bad at the end of the day. But here is basically what his estimation is of the reason why Black Adam is no more. And pay attention to who he blames for this whole thing. Because essentially what he's saying there is like, you know, the movie essentially got killed because new management came in and pretty much shut it down. Now, a lot of people are saying, oh, he's talking about David Zaslav. Not exactly, because remember, Zaslav came in well before the release of that film. Essentially what happened is that, and this was reported back almost a year ago now, is that The Rock pushed hard for Henry Cavill to be Superman, so they can build towards the future for having a Superman Black Adam dynamic for the future films. And we got to a point where The Rock had a meeting with David Zaslav himself in order to see if there was anything they can do to get that done. What happened is that people within Warner Brothers got very upset at The Rock, especially around the time where it was announced that James Gunn was going to be moving forward there, that people got very, very upset at The Rock to the point where they essentially said that, oh, The Rock went and tried to go over people's heads, and people were very, very upset that he tried to go over the new management, being Gunn and his team. So this narrative started building on social media over the following months, or following weeks, I should say, about how all of this is the backlash from Black Adam is his fault, that Henry Cavill coming back all of a sudden shortly after that cameo saying he's back as Superman, and then having to come back like a week or two later saying, never mind, I'm not coming back at all. They said that that was all The Rock's fault because The Rock was the one trying to instigate things behind the scenes. It's like, look, trying to blame The Rock for the fact that Henry Cavill was told that he was coming back for Superman, and then after a meeting with James Gunn being told that no, you're actually not coming back as Superman, it shows that there was politics being played behind the scenes there. And of course it got played throughout the media where somehow Rock was the villain of this whole situation. They say no, he manipulated like Henry Cavill as well. Keep in mind, Henry Cavill has never made any estimation that he was manipulated by The Rock in this whole situation. He was told by one team he was coming back, and then told by the team that was just taking over right afterwards, and no, he's not coming back. And if he's not coming back, then we don't need Rock to come back either. And that's how this whole thing started. So, like I said, it feels like the disconnect between James Gunn and Henry Cavill in some way, shape, or form was personal. Like, he made the estimation that when they gave him the job, and like I said, I'm still trying to figure out how James Gunn is qualified to run a studio at this point in his career, because no one's ever answered that question at all. But it feels like he had it in his sets that Henry Cavill was not coming back as Superman no matter what, and now that he's in charge. And the excuse was that, oh, we're just going to reboot everything. Nothing's really going to matter after the point. But like I said, you're keeping Jason Momoa around, whether he's going to be Aquaman or Lobo and whatever comparison there. So he's going to be sticking around. Now you guys have said that Gal Gadot is going to be sticking around as Wonder Woman. You technically haven't gotten rid of Ezra Miller yet. I mean, you've kind of kept everything on the hush, but you haven't made any public estimation that he's gone at this point in time. So essentially, only people who are really gone from this universe right now is The Rock and Henry Cavill. So I'll shoot this over to you again. I mean, whose camp are you on right now? Or are you on The Rock's camp, or are you on James Gunn camp? I'll start with Orange.
I would be on The Rock's camp in this case, because there's nothing that James Gunn could do to make me ever want to support his work.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sorry, but we all know what kind of stuff that James Gunn is into, and I am somebody who is willing to draw the line and say I will not support a any damn project that he does, not a damn one, and because to promote, I mean, didn't he also say that we are actually willing to keep Ezra Miller on? I believe he did say that. I believe it was actually reported by Bounding, where they're like, yeah, we're actually thinking about keeping Ezra Miller on. And it's like, well, yeah, it does make sense with James Gunn, because James Gunn is a sick motherfucker, and so is Ezra Miller. But yeah, those are my thoughts. I'd be totally in Rock's corner on this one.
I mean, I think that the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. I mean, and maybe it's a bad analogy, but I think of like when a new general manager is hired because the previous one was fired in the NFL. A lot of the time, like if there's a young quarterback who's developing, like they don't have any interest in seeing them succeed because they want to draft their own guy. So if James Gunn had plans to replace Henry Cavill from the start, Black Adam failing was right in his wheelhouse, right in his playbook, because then he can just start anew with the Superman character. He can cast his own Superman. He can cast his own director. Doesn't have to worry about Zack Snyder anymore. And so I think some of that plays a role. Again, we're talking about Hollywood. We're talking about egos. We're talking about people's feelings kind of getting stepped on. So I tend to think that the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Look, if The Rock had a huge hit with Black Adam, James Gunn probably wouldn't have been able to do what he did. So it sucks, I guess, that maybe the movie wasn't as supported as it could have been. But this is, I mean, these people play these games, and I'm speaking about producers, studio executives. They play chess like this with actors, with stars, with projects that they are potentially going to offer to people or can use as leverage. So yeah, I think it's probably somewhere in the middle, but it's just unfortunate for The Rock. It didn't work out.
Hey, Rick, let me ask you this question because you remember when Shazam 2 came out, and this was during the months where James Gunn's camp was really burying The Rock publicly, and they were even trying to put this story out here saying that, oh, well, the reason why Shazam 2 bombed was because The Rock denied having a cameo in the movie, and that's the reason why that film fell. If you got that cameo, the film would have done much better, but it's all The Rock's fault, right? Well, here's the other caveat to this, is that you've been telling people for the last year that, hey, these last few movies we're just going to burn off and then we're going to start anew, right? So everyone was under the impression or the assumption that, hey, look, these films really don't matter at the end of the day because they're just going to get rebooted anyway. So I mean, who cares about Shazam 2? Who cares about The Flash? It's all going to be rebooted. But now that you're bringing Gal Gadot back, showing that you're not actually going to be rebooting, or you're going to try to find some wishy-washy roundabout of doing a reboot with the same character, then it was like, well, had you not told people you were rebooting it, people probably would have been more interested in those movies that flopped throughout the course of the year, because you basically told them there's no point in seeing them in the first place, right?
Well, I would point out that Gal Gadot made a cameo in Shazam 2. So I don't think that helped the box office. Moreover, what does The Rock appearing or not appearing in Shazam 2 have to do with anything? I mean, if it's a cameo that pops up, I presume at the end, it's not like you're going to promote it. You're not going to say, special guest appearance by Dwayne The Rock Johnson or Dwayne Johnson at, for this movie, and people are going to watch. I don't think people are going to go watch Shazam 2 waiting in anticipation for The Rock to pop up anywhere. So I'm perplexed why they would even why they would blame that. That's just that's an absurd reason to blame the failure. And it's also kind of curious that Zachary Levi is considered the more problematic character actor than Ezra Miller, because what was it? He was like against the vaccines or whatever, and Ezra Miller's out there allegedly beating up on people and forming cults. Not that I think Zachary Levi also might have allegedly made his own cult. So it's an absurd reason to blame The Rock for anything. And no, I think I would probably lean more Team Rock on this, because it's true. When you have a new management, new ownership, you do want to put in your own person rather than keep the other person around. And also, it might be a personal thing. James Gunn might have some kind of grudge because of the whole brouhaha of The Rock putting his interests and his movie's interests ahead of whatever grand vision James Gunn may have. And I've seen this in other organizations where people, where the leadership does hold grudges against people who are critical of them in some way, and so they'll work to get rid of them. And just one last point, I loved Rob's face when The Rock brought up diversity. I know. I saw the eye roll. Is like, oh, yep, that's our Robert. So
It's like I said, this whole thing never made any sense to me covering this for like the last year. It felt like that, Zaslav, for whatever reason, thought James Gunn was the best person to be in charge of superhero movies, because he's like, oh, well, he's a known director and a comic book fan, so he should be able to run this thing smoothly. And then James Gunn's camp came in and basically dismantled the old camp, and then they started, having a PR war for a few months there. And like I said, now everything that DC has done has just been like one bomb after another. You can sit there and say, well, I mean, you can't really blame James Gunn for the Flash bombing or Shazam bombing and all that stuff, but at the same time, like I said, everything you guys put out there in the media certainly hasn't helped those films not be a complete and total flop. And like I said, we got Blue Beetle coming out now, which didn't he say not too long ago that was supposed to be like the official start of like his little DC universe or whatever it was, like this movie, and now it's probably going to do about like 14 million opening weekend, which is just horrid.
that would be an absolute disaster to put Blue Beetle as the beginning of your whole reboot for the DCEU, because he's not a well-known property, and it stars people that most people have never heard of. And then you've already poisoned the well a bit with with George Lopez's Batman's a fascist line, which bothered a lot of people. You've got Susan Sarandon talking about she's the face and the voice of white supremacy in this movie, or something to that effect. So yeah, you're already working hard to alienate some fans. And again, he's not a well-known figure. Why start out with someone that not a lot of people know? I mean, who
Because
knows?
they
Maybe.
assume that, oh well, he's from Cobra Kai and Cobra Kai is big, so people go watch this movie. And by the way, George Lopez is in it, and Mexicans love George Lopez, so they'll go
Speak
watch
for
it too.
yourself. Yeah, well, he no, not all Mexicans love him. I'll just say that. I'm just puzzled. I'm just puzzled, but who knows? I do know a couple of people who are genuinely excited for Blue Beetle, because they do get that representation and that diversity. I was excited for a while myself, but now the thrill is gone. How can I say? The thrill is gone.
I will say, like, I think with James Gunn, I do think it is personal, but like in a different way. I mean, he's talked before about how his father like died recently, I guess, and he wanted to make a Superman, like the Superman Legacy film is supposed to be like dedicated to him, and it's coming out on his birthday, his dad's birthday or something next year or something. And I think on some level, Henry Cavill just well, I mean, like when I think of a younger version of myself or a younger version of James Gunn, I don't think of Henry Cavill. So that's probably part of the reason that he wanted him gone. He wanted a like some kind of story about like that he's going to use as some kind of therapy session
Hmm.
for like losing his dad.
Yeah, that's
Superman
great.
lost his
That's
dad.
exactly what we need, a $300 million therapy session for James Gunn. Which,
Well, look at all these Orange Man bad films, okay? So, I mean,
yeah,
it's not above Hollywood to do that. And um, he Rob and Rick probably have it right with the whole management analogy thing too, because The Rock has a very personal tie into Black Adam too, and I can imagine that they're clashing visions and everything. And it was one of those things where it's like, do you trust the person that you just hired to direct the next 10 years worth of your superhero movies, or The Rock,
yeah.
who can fall back on Disney Channel movies and his tequila.
Don't forget the Vin Diesel movies, because apparently they don't hate each other
Oh,
anymore. But so here's a
yes,
quick question from Roof
there's that
Korea, and they
too.
said, was it confirmed? Like, is she going to be working as like a producer or a consultant? It would make absolutely no sense whatsoever for her to work on a Wonder Woman film if she's not starring in it. So I don't see the producer or consultant angle on there. If she's saying that they're developing a film, that means that they're going to have her be in a part 3 of Wonder Woman. That's just the way that it's going to be there. And the other thing with there was another point with James Gunn that's like, I'm trying to find like the best way of saying this without just like shouting out obscenities at this point, but I think that I think there was kind of like a path here where they could have moved in a direction that that would have satisfied fans by giving people what they liked or what they thought that they wanted, but you say you make the decision to blow this whole thing up. So now, literally, the entire DCEU relies on James Gunn's Superman movie, which we won't even see for another 3 years, thanks to the White Rider strike and the SAG strike and whatever the case may be. So you're putting all your eggs in your basket on 2026, the James Gunn Superman movie, somehow being a box office success that everyone is going to want to see. The several different DCEU movies that you have lined up moving forward. And it's like, look, I'm sick of the verses. I think even John Delarose said it last night. Not everything has to be a verse. We need to stop with the verse. We need to stop with 35 Marvel movies and 35 DC movies and 45 Mattel movies and all this old nonsense. It's like, just go back to making good films. You guys can't even do that. So why are you trying to build the next 18 years of movies where you can't even get one movie right? So just stop.
Well, I figure the thinking is these are guaranteed money makers in some way, shape, or form. If not in the U.S., at least in foreign markets. So, what would be appealing about making something original when you can spin off variety of franchises and rely on characters that are well known and keep peddling them to audiences to flock to them. And then also, I would just say audiences are partly to blame because they'll flock. I mean, they'll go to see like Fast X and they'll pump Barbie for Best Picture and be completely serious about that. So part of it is the audience not being more forceful, but at the same time, people talk about, oh, we want something, it just seems a question that I can't figure out. They say they want something original, they give them something original, they won't watch it. Then you create all these various verses to where you need to watch television shows to figure out what's going on in a movie, and then they say, well, no, we don't want to see this either. I don't know what people want nowadays when it comes to film.
Yeah.
We want escapism to return.
Well,
No. No.
when you tell a story, okay, the story is a sense-making device, okay, and it's an emotional journey. So they want an emotional journey that will help them understand more about themselves, as well as like give them the emotional gratification and catharsis that they're looking for that they don't have in everyday life. So
Yeah, I agree, and
that's
I mean,
generic
I
enough
know that
word.
they you know how they're having the Summer Under the Stars, and today stars Jackie Cooper. I reviewed The Champ. I got teary eyed at the end of that movie. Not so
Mhm.
much the remake, which I just finished,
Mhm.
but in the original one, I got emotional. This movie is from 1931. So it's what, overnight? It's what, over 80, 90 years, 80 years old. Forgive my math, 80, 90. I'm bad at math. But that movie has more emotional impact because it's original and it has relatable characters, flawed people. What am I going to care about Blue Beetle's issues or the Flash's issues, especially when they're not well played by these actors? So no, you're right. I would watch something original and or at least something that has some kind of emotional impact on you versus all of these sterile, pre-packaged series of DC and Marvel films to the point where I don't even know what's going on in a lot of them, and I don't care what's going on in any of them. Believe me, I don't think people are really demanding to see Harry Styles come back in a larger role in a Marvel movie. I'm perplexed as to why why they really want that. It just seems pointless at this point. And again, I would say that the Superman movie, if it comes out in 2025, 2026, whenever, by this time, audiences are, I think, probably going to no longer be interested in any superhero movie. They're superheroed out. The DCU, the Marvel series is just kind of going down. The DCU has gone down for quite a while now. Are people really going to be that excited now? Even like Fast 10. I mean, yeah, it opened big, but it's slowly fading away. I think the people are just getting tired, Jacob, of the various verses at this point. They'll peter out. They'll peter out because people are not as invested. I'm hoping that people who saw them when they were in their 20s, now that they're pushing 40, are hopefully growing up. Some are not, sad to say.
Hmm. Well, let's jump over just real quick here to a quick little box office update because people are still going to go watch Barbie. When I went to go see the film that we're going to talk about here in just a couple of minutes here, Meg 2, there were still a bunch of white women and gay men dressed in all pink, clogging up the concession line. So it's still very much Barbie mania right now. It's probably going to
Hey,
pass
you
$1 billion.
forgot
What?
you forgot the other people. You forgot the plus, Jacob.
Who cares
Bigot.
about the plus? No one. They don't even care about the plus. I'm
Just
not
for the
acknowledging
record,
them.
I had breakfast with my gay friend, and he didn't mention Barbie once. So there's that.
Good for him.
Well, there's always an exception to the rule.
He's finally going straight. I guess, I don't know. Forgive me.
But yeah, Barbie's gonna pass $1 billion. They're now gonna make like 28 films now off the backs of this. So congratulations, everyone! You've killed cinema. By the way, there was a couple nights ago on the Black Pill stream on Bounding Out Comics. I made the joke that there's no way that they would ever do a Monopoly movie because that would be anti-Semitic. And then literally the very next day, they announced that a Monopoly movie is in development.
But
Hooray!
how's that anti-Semitic?
You'll get it. I'll explain it to
Yeah.
you after the show.
Oh, okay.
So,
I love Monopoly.
yep.
Maybe
Especially
they can hire
SJW
Ezra
blamed Monopoly on the Jewish people.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there's some land. There's some people that have been historically very fortunate to have land or
Yeah.
buildings.
yeah. Just
Well,
don't ask who owns the banks because then you'll get your bank account shut down. So
although
don't do
they're
that.
you know they do have the only land in the Middle East with no oil, so they're just pointing that out.
Mhm.
Yeah, they just have our military. It's fine.
So yeah, that's out there. Ninja Turtles. I mean, who honestly cares? Like at this point, like it's gotten to the point where I'm just looking at these movies and it's like, what is even motivating anyone to like go to a movie theater outside of Barbie? Apparently, and keep in mind, I know there's been like this recent surge, especially like this third week, where people have tried to shift the narrative around Barbie that is actually like this super secret based movie that Ken is like some kind of like hero
That's
to like
cider.
men. It's like yeah, you
There
know, and a
is
few other
none.
people. It's not just him. Like there's other people online that are trying to push this narrative
Yeah,
too.
but he's the leader of the Renaissance.
Or so I like to call them the cool kids club. So
There is nothing you can do to convince me that Barbie is worth watching.
Well, I keep telling you, when it wins Best Picture and it gets that 5 disc criterion, you know you'll sing a different tune.
That only convinces me not to see it even more.
Yeah, but
I will say so. Like, there's a Shakespearean literary troupe that's called Speak, Strike, or Dress. Okay, and I think Greta Gerwig did a very good job with this element in the Barbie film. It's one of these things where you leave out certain things or you word things in a certain way where people could take it in either way. And I think she did a very good job with this from all the reviews and the reactions that I've seen. And that's my take on it. It's like you go in, you get what you expect or what you want to see. There you go.
Well, that's what I would have said about the Meg too, but we'll get to that in a bit.
So and then the other film on here, which is kind of surprising, Mission Impossible just absolutely crapped the bed, and it's only made like 450, but its budget was like well over 300 million. And I think they must not have realized that they had Oppenheimer coming out literally the very next week this film came out as well, because they lost all of their IMAX showings. They pretty much had absolutely no chance of going up against it on that point. And then of course Barbie blows up like right after the fact. So Mission Impossible right now is probably like the fourth movie that anyone's even thinking to go see right now. It's just not happening. So there's no real heat there from what he did last year with Top Gun Maverick. This one's kind of like just burnt out pretty much. So yeah, Tom Cruise with another rare L here at the box office. But I think
well, with that one, you have to remember Top Gun Maverick was a sequel to a very beloved film that was bringing a lot, it was kind of bringing up a new generation, but still mixing in the older, some of the older people. Here with Mission Impossible, it's what, the seventh, eighth film of a franchise, and it's a part one. So you're basically, at least they're doing better than Fast 10, which is telling you that's going to be the first part of a trilogy now. So there are a couple of factors that we need to consider as to why that one did not do as well as Top Gun Maverick. There are a couple of I think it kind of got lost in the shuffle there with the IMAX. Although it's kind of surprising that, well, not really, because I think Oppenheimer was made more with the idea of IMAX. This is kind of the same situation with Dune Part 2 and the Marvels being upset that they're not going to get the IMAX screen. Dune Part 2 was made with that in mind. The Marvels was kind of, well, we just want a big screen and we want the bigger box office take. So there's a world of difference. And the same with Dead Reckoning Part 1 versus Oppenheimer. They're completely different mindsets, I would say.
pretty much. But I mean, yeah, it's all blowing up here, and then Over the next few weeks, there's not a whole lot of films that are really going to inspire anyone to go to the movie theaters. I mean, the studios are pulling out more releases, pushing them to 2024. They're still trying to figure out what they're going to do with Dune, but they already have Dune slotted for a number of weeks IMAX. So if they would have to move that one, it'll be just a complete mess. So they might have no choice but to release that film as it stands, which is going to completely screw over Disney because that means the Marvels is going to be a complete wash as well. So
Well,
we're in.
somebody from Warner Brothers already said that Dune is not being pushed back at all.
Yeah, okay, because like I said, they already have a contract for like 3 weeks worth of IMAX. So if they were to
Yeah.
move the date, they would have to move that contract, and it would just be an entire pain in the ass. Like I said, they might just have no choice but to ride that one out.
They
Yeah,
said
and
we are not doing this to offend people, but we have commitments that we need to keep.
Hmm.
and also the Marvels coming out a week after Dune, that was not planned. I mean, that was pretty much an accident due to whatever scheduling issues and problems they had on the Marvels. Remember the movie was supposed to come out what this
I
month,
think
last month?
this week,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah,
this
sometime
week
in,
or last week.
yeah, it was supposed to come out the summer, and for whatever reasons, they pushed it back to
Well, keep in mind
November.
this film was first supposed to come out last year. So the original date was July of 2022, and they've pushed it back 5 times up to this point, and there's a chance they could push it back again. So
Well,
Yeah,
where
so
does Secret Invasion fall on the timeline of this Marvelettes movie?
apparently, this is supposed to take place before the Marvelettes. So,
Mm.
I got you guys to say the Marvelette.
mhm.
Oh my god.
For once, it wasn't me. For once, it wasn't me.
My surprise is that anybody would want to see a Marvel movie in IMAX. I mean, I think the last time one was at least worth seeing was what, like the last Avengers movie,
Yeah,
because
Endgame.
at least that was supposed to be the final chapter or whatever. But why would anybody want to go see any of these movies in IMAX? I mean, the CGI is terribly done. The experience itself, I mean, you're spending more money to have an experience that is relatively the same as the 2D picture.
I,
So
I
Keep in
think
mind, Secret Invasion, just for the record, Secret Invasion is $70 million more than the next season of Loki that's supposed to come out here in the next month or so, which means that they overshot the budget on this film. They're both only 6 episodes long, by the way, but they overshot the budget on Secret Invasion, thinking that it was going to be this massive smash hit, and literally everyone crapped on it. Like, even the media didn't even bother to try to attack fans to pretend like it was actually a good show. Like, everyone crapped on it.
yeah, was pretty
I
much
mean,
killed off. Now, the reason that they want the Marvels to be in IMAX is the same reason that they retrofitted a lot of films from 2D to 3D after the first Avatar, like that Clash of the Titans and I
yeah,
guess some others. They wanted to cash in. They saw the money. I mean, they saw Gods of Egypt. They put that in 3D, and they thought they were getting. They thought they were going to get the same reaction. Difference is Cameron planned it as 3D. He shot it as a 3D film. All these others were post produced as 3D, and not many people bought it. Same thing with the IMAX. The Dune and Oppenheimer were made with IMAX in mind. None of these others were, but they just figured, oh, we'll just put it in IMAX. People won't know the difference, and we'll make more money. It's always the mad rush to cash in. That's why they did it, but they're not going to because Dune Part Two and Oppenheimer, I believe, locked in the IMAX screens beforehand, so they were not going to force these other films were not going to force their way in.
hey, let's charge you more money so you have to like look through these terrible glasses to get the full effect of watching this movie. I've never understood the 3D thing. I heard Avatar was worth it. Everything else, I went to see the Green Hornet in 3D.
Oh my
So
God,
there you go.
Roberto! You know that movie inspired one of the few times where I openly cursed at the end of the movie. Where my friend Gabe asked me what I thought. I said this is the biggest pile of shit I've ever seen. That and The Hangover Part Two were the only times where I actually said that out loud. So I don't know what you were thinking seeing that in 3D. My gosh.
I
It
like
needed
Seth
more
Rogen at the
Kato.
time. That's
Oh,
why I like
were
Seth
you were
Rogen
you
at
were
the
you, were you
time.
high at the time?
Uh, coincidentally, this was actually just about a year into my smoking, so I was relatively, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
I will say this was the first time I've been in a movie theater in months, and yes, like there were 6 people in the theater with me, and yes, 2 of them were vaping, and I was just like, "What the heck?" So
Yeah, that's pretty rude.
Yep.
Not as good as taking
get
pictures.
Somebody made the mistake of vaping in front of me at the theaters when I was watching the movie. I took their vapor or their thing from them, and I just chucked it against the wall, breaking it.
Well, fortunately, I sit in the way back of the theater. I don't like IMAX. I like pretending that I own the whole kingdom in front of me, so I sit in the back seat. So
Well, you're very smart because
Sarah, you have the link. Like, just jump on.
yeah, jump in and defend something.
Yeah.
I will say,
Well, when we start discussing it,
Johnson, you're very smart because if you sit at the very back, the COVID virus will not go up there. It only floats down. The COVID virus never floats up. So that's why I always sit at the very top, because the virus will never hit me.
if I'm worried about COVID, I just tell COVID germs that I'm there for political reasons, and it goes away.
Okay, if it's a regular screen, to me the best seat is the handicap section, the third section from the front, because it's perfect eye level and it's not the full IMAX screen. IMAX on like 2 or 3 rows, in that back section. Then that's the perfect seat there. But that's just.
Well,
I grew up going to the planetarium, so none of the IMAX stuff impresses me.
I don't go to the theaters anymore.
Have any of you guys been to Screen X yet?
No.
You mean the
Like
one that
Screen
Paul
X
Rubens
is like
went to?
basically like the 360-degree like movie experience, and no one's seen that.
Sounds
yet.
really dumb.
Why the hell would I do that?
Disney World has one.
Yeah.
Is that the thing where there's like on the sides, like
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes,
no.
I got to see the one in their new China exhibit where they're totally not sucking up the China. So.
Oh, is that like the 360? Well, don't they have the same? Yeah, I went to that.
I almost went to Oppenheimer in the Screen X because I just wanted to see like the explosion and all 3 things, but then it's like I'll pass.
No, I wouldn't want to do that.
Where's the earth-shattering kaboom? That's what I thought when I was watching Oppenheimer.
I only want to see 2 movies this August: The Meg and Last Voyage of Demeter. And my fucking theater is like, do you want to see Oppenheimer or Ninja Turtles? None. Everybody else is like, Oppenheimer. Okay, we'll show Oppenheimer later this month. We're going to put Ninja Turtles in first, so the kids have something to see. It's like, I won't take my kids to see this. Not that I have any, but still, it's like
I mean
wouldn't
this
take my
in the
kids to see
nicest
that.
possible way. If you have children, don't take them to the movies. Okay, you're ruining. It's like the airplane. You're ruining the experience for everyone else. Don't take your kids to the movies.
I don't
Take
think
your
I ever
kids to
discussed
good
this
movies.
Yeah.
But when I saw
Stay at home with your kids. You can pause it for bathroom breaks.
Just go outside and throw a football around and
Learn to hold it. Learn to hold it. It's a valuable lesson.
Take your kids to Joyride. I'm sure they'll appreciate the cultural.
Rob, that's what car rides are for. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
I never discussed it on this channel, I don't think, but when I saw Rise of Palpatine in theaters, the pre-screen, there were kids or parents that brought their kids to see it. Well, then there was that like 30-year-old woman kissing a 60-year-old woman on screen, and it's like, Mom, why are these 2 women kissing each other? Very uncomfortable.
Because Disney's trying to subvert
your
child.
It was a very uncomfortable parent. Let's just say that.
At the Barbie screen, and at this Barbie screening I went to, and I know everyone calls it, one of the greatest films after Across the Spider-Verse. The mother, and I'm assuming it was a mother and child, I saw them walk out. So I don't know why all of these people are demanding that it win Best Picture and that it deserves to win, Best Director and all.
Because they have literally nothing else.
I mean, my gosh, it's not.
It's the thing. What's gonna happen. Like this whole online push to give Barbie all these Academy. It's going to happen because that's just the way Hollywood is now. So they make movies for themselves, not for the audience.
Rick,
I imagine that there are a couple of people. Yeah, go
Well,
ahead.
you're like
Sorry.
you're part of the union. Okay, you tell me what an actual legitimate best picture of the year should be. I mean, most of the stuff has been like Oscar bait for years, ever since Crash, right? So tell me what the ideal movie to get all the good awards besides Lord of the Rings gets. Okay, what
You
does it
mean
look like?
what for this year?
No, I mean it like in real life. Tell us.
What films deserved Best Picture?
No, yeah, like what kind of film would you say deserves best picture?
We
Honestly,
don't
I
have
can
that kind
pick
of
out
time.
some.
So anyway, we're gonna go into their
Yeah.
next movie here, which
Not
is
my
We'll leave
anything
that
to
for
say.
another occasion.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
let's jump over to the Meg, which is the big monster movie that panders to China in every way, shape, or form
Which does
possible.
not deserve Best Picture.
Now, look, if you who's here has actually seen the first Meg movie, the one that came out a couple
I
years
did.
ago. Okay, so everyone but Rob, essentially. But
Oh, Rob did a Rick.
so the first Meg movie came out. I don't even remember exactly how long ago it was, but it was this
I think it's
idea that
2018.
yeah, so it's this idea that somewhere deep into the ocean, there's like this trench where all the deep sea monsters can't get out because it's too deep for them. But if someone was to blow a hole in the trench, then things can get out. And all of a sudden, oh my God, guys, there's a megalodon here. And the megalodon, remember megalodons? Remember when we talked about them for a while, and that was a thing. And now they got out, and it's like, oh no, there's two megalodons now. Now apparently it's just a bunch of them now, because the whole point of the first movie is that there was supposed to be one, but now there's just like a bunch of them. So the first thing you have to understand here is that yes, this is a Chinese produced film. This is a film that's produced by China Media Capital, which is basically just a Chinese communist government. So this is a film that had $130 million budget. Who knows how much money China gave into it to fulfill that budget, which as a result, hey, look, if you want Chinese money, that means you got to pander to the Chinese, which means you're going to have Chinese actors in this film. They're going to have to be portrayed in a very, very positive light. They have to be the hero of the story in some instances, even though Jason Statham is already in this movie, he should be the hero. But hey, you want that money, you got to dance to the rules. It's kind of like, if you remember, we reviewed the film earlier this year called Kandahar with Gerard Butler, and I found out after the fact that the film was financed by Saudi Arabia. So there was like this weird scene for like no reason where the guy dies and he claims that Muhammad was the one true prophet or some nonsense like that. It's like, well, when you're taking Saudi money, that's the type of stuff you have to do. So in the course of this film, if you want Chinese money, there's certain stuff that you have to do in this one as well. But it's because there's really nothing else to go off of here. This is essentially the setup that we get, and it's a sequel of the last movie. I think it started off with like kind of like paying tribute to a character who died in the first one, which I gotta be honest with you, it's been like 5 years since I've seen the first movie, so I didn't even remember that character died. I just assumed that she died at some point. I know Ruby Rose was in the first one as well, but I think she's dead too, or maybe not, or maybe they just
They
didn't
never
bother to
even
bring her
mentioned
back.
her in this.
Yeah, okay, well, fuck her then. They brought back the dude who's like the Vine star, but they didn't bring back Ruby Rose, so that just goes to show you how relevant she is. And so basically the whole setup here is that we're going to do essentially what we did in Jurassic World, where it's like, well, these monsters are here now, so let's put one in captivity and control it, because that's never ended badly ever. And it's like, how many Jurassic Park movies do we need to learn this lesson? Apparently not enough. And the setup here is that this thing gets loose. They have to go down to the trench to figure out like where it's coming from. They find out that there's people mining for rare metals or rare crystals down into the ocean that can be worth billions. But there's also other things down there, including more megalodons, these little well, I call them Cloverfield creatures that are also down there as well. And by the way, there's a giant octopus. So let me go ahead and start off with the newbies here. Orange Hat, what did you at least think of the kind of the setup premise for this film versus what you thought of like the first movie going into this?
The setup and premise of this one I thought was actually decent. I mean, yes, it is Chinese funded and whatnot. I can put that aside. I actually like the first one, and for the most part, I like this one too. However, I do have problems with it. Li Bingbing's character, who they said died in 2021 in this film, it's like, I really wish her character was alive. So what the hell, China? Because I also have read the books. I really like the books that these movies are loosely based on. And so when they did the whole, okay, we're switching it up to somebody else instead, it's like, why? But as for the first one, I thought the first one was a pretty solid story for the most part. It's just there was a couple of stupid things in it. I mean, the guy from The Office, what the fuck? Uh,
Oh yeah, Rainn Wilson. Yeah, my
Yeah.
parents were watching it the other day. I caught that. So
and it's like,
I'll laugh
good,
when he
you mentioned
died.
Shark Week. Now get the fuck out of this movie because you're completely irrelevant. But this, oh my god, they just went overboard with a couple of things. I mean, this movie is very anti-capitalist, very much so. If you pay attention to the villains of the movie that aren't the sharks, but it's like,
you mean the
seriously,
evil ladies?
yeah. I mean,
You
holy,
mean
White lady.
Jill from Resident Evil?
yeah.
White
I'm
lady.
thinking to myself, we don't care about, or they literally say, we don't care about the environment. We care about money. It's like, what the? Who fucking wrote this shit?
What's her name?
Scientists,
Sienna Guillory, is that her name?
Sienna
She
Guillory, yeah.
she looks like a retired porn star in this movie. I don't know what was the get up or
Right?
the makeup choice,
I mean,
but it's like ooh, it's not great. That's all I'm gonna
at
say.
first I thought it was freaking Daisy Ridley who was playing the evil capitalist chick, but it's like, come on now. But honestly, the way the movie starts with Jason Statham, it's like, so Jonas knows all this martial arts shit that he showed no real connection to in the first one. I mean,
It's a Jason
then
Statham movie. You got to have him
Right.
legally punch somebody in the face.
yeah, because
I did
I
think
do
that,
like
by
in
the
the
way.
first one when he threatens the doctor. He's like, plus we're in international waters, which means legally I could beat the shit out of you and get away with it. And the doctor looks at the guy. He's right. He can. I mean,
Hey,
Cliff Curtis is.
He's the green James Bond, so of course he's gonna get away with it.
I mean, I like. Or it has a good cast. Jason Statham, Cliff Curtis, great actors. Plus the kid, who was also the same kid from the first one. So they have I'll give them that for consistent casting. She actually did a lot better than the first one. I mean, yeah, she was a little kid then, and she's a little bit older now, but still, yeah, I thought this was semi-solid for the most part. I mean, the shark thing where they actually do leave it ambiguous, but the shark that's in captivity, does it recognize, does it not?
Mm-hmm.
But they do kind of leave it open for interpretation a little bit. Like, is it truly domesticated?
A domesticated megalodon.
Right.
Yeah,
They-
all he needed
we had
was
carry
like
thing a few years
he,
ago.
he needed
okay?
he needed like a Chris Pratt type moment where he would just put his hands out and the megalodon would stop.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
if
mean, he
anybody
pretty much
sounds-
did that, right? With the whole click, 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 click thing.
Okay, I'll go
Right.
sideways, and then he gets to touch it. It's like, dude, touching the skin of a shark would rip your hand to shreds. They have that kind of like organic sandpaper, except worse.
Yeah, it's a bit like cotton. People assume that cotton is very soft, but if you pick it straight from the field, it's actually very thorny and it's very
Fuck are
Oh,
you
yeah.
talking
Oh, really?
about?
yes.
That's
Yes.
yeah, that's news.
Yeah, you went for a picking cotton reference to the shark movie.
Well, no, I'm just making a comparison that people assume that cotton picked straight from the cotton field is actually very
Mhm.
soft.
Are you
It's not.
fucking racist.
Jump down, turn around, pick a
No, I'm
cotton.
joking, I'm
No, I'm Mexican. I'm supposed to be picking cotton and picking fruits out in the fields. It's part of my heritage, apparently.
Well, you get to have a siesta when you're done. So
Yeah.
No, I don't. No, I don't. I get paid like 20 cents, apparently. And I'm not
Now I'm thinking of what can be a worse punishment than picking cotton while mariachi songs are playing in the background. That just sounds like hell, doesn't it?
No, you
Oh,
would
I
have
got one for
no,
you.
you
I got
no,
one for
no,
you.
no,
Okay.
no. You would have you would have norteño music. You'd have Tigres del Norte playing. All
Well,
right?
in-
And just for the record, you all are doing this. I was just trying to make an analogy to what Orange Hat was saying. Don't anyone put.
I was joking. I was
It's
joking.
I
okay.
was just making.
You can make fun of my white woman ways with my yoga pants and my pumpkin spice lattes. So
I
You
like
wear yoga
pumpkin spice
pants?
lattes. Just for the record, I actually like pumpkin spice lattes.
yeah, I do too.
I might be
Okay.
a
No,
white woman at
You
I
heart.
lost
want
friend
somebody. I
points,
will say, I want
CS.
somebody out there to make a. I want somebody to put the like the trailer, and I want them to play Baby Shark music in the back.
No,
No, that's a good
bad
idea. I like
CS.
that.
Bad
I
CS.
like it. I
You
approve
know,
that message.
Johnson, this film doesn't need your help to be worse than it already is.
I
So
approve
just-
that message.
So, CS, what did you think of the premise of the Meg 2, The Trench?
I thought it was trying too hard to be like a horror film at first. They introduced the characters really well. I thought it was funny. Like eco-terrorism. It's like, oh, okay, of course these are the bad guys. That's fine. That's fine. It's a legit problem, and if you come at it from like a legitimate standpoint, sure, good writing. Yeah, and then like, oh, we've got to go down further, and oh, I didn't honestly think the villain was that great because you didn't give him enough screen time. I like that he killed all his minor friends because it's like, oh, this dude's bad. Good, you showed me that that guy is irredeemable. But I think it would just. I will say this: like, I was trying to do so many tropey things all at the same time that I appreciated it for what it could have been had it been done better. I think on some level, but other than it's just kind of like dumb, big, blowy, actiony, fun. So it wasn't bad. I'd take my kids if there weren't freaking vapors in front of me. So
Yes.
which movie theater did you go to?
I mean, the bad
I
guy,
don't
by the
know,
way,
it's-
should be noted that it's the same guy that was the bad guy in Rambo: Last Blood.
oh, see, I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know
no, you're
that
right. Yeah,
reference.
I forgot all about that dude.
That it's
Oh.
positive now because was it Kumail Nanjiani was worried that minorities can play villains, and now apparently we can. So that's a step forward. I thought I thought that it was going to be kind of goofy, campy fun. That's how I remember the first one, but it's been so long since I've
Yeah.
seen it. This one, I think, was trying to be a little more serious and throw in some sort of environmental message in there. And
Let's be very clear here. This is Chinese Jurassic Park. This is essentially what we're doing right now.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Kinda.
not a good version of it because I actually
It's
was
a
pretty.
terrible version of it though.
I was starting to get bored right, pretty soon into this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then trying to remember all these characters from the movie, however many years ago, I didn't remember. I found the little girl annoying because that's a trope. The bright young girl who, of course, is going to get into
She
the
wasn't like
web.
super smart though. It could
Yeah.
have been worse.
Well, and I mean, the only thing that really surprised me was when one of their heads explodes. But
Implodes.
for better or worse, all I kept imagining was that Titanic submarine just going down there.
Yep,
And it's
the worst.
unfortunate timing. I mean, of course, that
Yeah.
was beyond their
Are you
control, but
kidding? That was like
I-
3 weeks ago. You're fine.
no, but it's
But I was
unfortunate timing
thinking
the movie
that-
was released.
But I was thinking that today, sitting in the theater, the Titanic tragedy.
and thinking,
I don't
how are
think-
they walking way
I
down
didn't
there?
even think
They
about it.
don't compress themselves, and I can't get emotional over characters whose names I never learned. I mean, I figured, was it Jonah? That's like the only name I really remember. I don't remember any of these other characters' names.
No, I didn't either.
So how am I supposed to like feel when they die?
Look,
I mean-
look, 2 of them are women, Rick, and one of them is darker skinned women than the other one. Okay, you're supposed to care because
well,
diversity, just like The
actually-
Rock said.
Actually, because I don't even remember, but I'm assuming that because one of the women killed was a darker skinned, that's where the Chinese were fine with that, because the Chinese have no problem seeing darker. I mean, that's why they rejected Little Mermaid, because they're more racist than your average American viewer.
Well,
I mean, I wouldn't say more
don't know if that's
racist. I mean,
possible.
there's still Koreans too. So I mean,
Oh, gosh.
so,
Hey, we got a Korean in the chat right now. A rooftop
Yeah.
Korean.
Yeah, like I said,
Based Koreans.
I made this joke on the Bounding show. It's like people always are like, "Oh, the Chinese are so racist." Against it. Like, look, Asian people don't even like each other, right? Like, have a conversation. Bring a Chinese person, a Japanese person, and a Korean in a bar and give them beer and see what happens. Like, it's not going to end very well, all right? So let's not pretend like, oh, it's just racist against these people. No, they don't even like each other. So they're very nationalistic in that sense.
All right.
So I'll just say
Doctor.
this because I honestly don't have much to say about this movie. I thought it was very stupid. I thought
Yep.
that basically, even for what it is, even if it's supposed to be a spectacle laden kind of turn your brain off summer, summer adventure movie, action movie,
Mhm.
whatever, it just what I don't think it provided that in the slightest. So even for people going out to see this, I can't even recommend it on that basic sort of spectacle driven level. That's what surprised me more about it was there wasn't more effort to sort of stretch the CGI budget,
Yeah.
or to have effects of like sharks eating shit. You know what I mean? Like I know I was pretty. The first movie that we reviewed was Jurassic World Dominion, and I think that movie does a much better job of like dinosaurs chasing people, eating them. Like, yeah, it's a
Hmm.
stupid movie, but so are the Meg movies, and they're not trying to be anything more than that. But even the daughter sneaking into the vessel to go with her father. I mean, that's right out of Jurassic Park, The
Uncle.
Lost World. I mean, so it's
Does
just
anybody
like we've
else
been
find
here.
the irony that this came out a week after Shark Week?
No, but like
I
we've
Oh,
been
I
here.
don't- I
This
don't
is
even know
what-
regurgitated franchise movie crap. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing here. And Jason Statham, I don't think he's a good actor, by the way. But
not.
he's done his last two movies I like very much, which is the Operation Fortune and Wrath of Man.
Yeah.
I thought was very good. So look, he's capable of being in good movies, certainly. But this
They just
this
have
was
to be directed by Guy Ritchie.
well, but this movie just felt like they didn't have any ideas. Like they just kind of threw crap in
I
the
think they had
blender.
so many ideas.
Okay.
Well, I think
Hold
that
on, just real quick. It's not that they don't really have any ideas. They think they just expected that. I mean, hey, look, we know that in China, these big monster movies play off very well to this demographic. This is the same thing they did with the Godzilla movies, the Kong movies, Pacific Rim. This idea that if you just have a giant monster somewhere in the film, that people in China are gonna go run out and see it. And because a lot of Chinese money is backed into this, like, that's probably all they were thinking. So it's like, hey, we just get a giant shark, then people will go out there and they'll absolutely love it. And I
they didn't.
guess
Yeah, and they didn't even really bother doing anything major because there's lots of dialogue in Chinese. So I just figured as I was watching, oh, this is for the Chinese market, so they won't have to either dub or sub this film. They can just watch it pretty much clearly like that. At the point where I'm wondering if they literally dubbed Jason Statham instead, it just might be easier. Uh,
He probably
so
knows Chinese.
well, John Cena knows Chinese, so there's that.
Yeah, well-
unironically, the number one movie on Netflix right now is John Cena and Jackie Chan in a film that they only released in China together. I think it's called like I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's on Netflix right now. And like I said, it was initially supposed to be a Chinese only release, and then Netflix picked it up as well. So now it's being shown here. But yeah, even John Cena or John China is doing Chinese exclusive films now too. So
Does he play Chairman Mao?
no, that's Jackie Chan.
Oh, that's Jackie Chan. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Unironically, I think I mentioned this last week to Rob. There's a scene in that film where like a girl, like 100-pound Chinese girl, jumps out of a moving bus and falls into the ground. That's going like 70 miles an hour, and she's just fine. I'm just like, okay, well, this is gonna be that movie.
I think it is that just from what I remember from the trailer, I was expecting something more the lines of a Sharknado type film,
Mhm.
where it would just be fun and kind of goofy, not taking itself too serious. Here, the movie takes itself way too seriously. For it's trying to make this really deep drama about all these environmentalists and I'm supposed to care about whether or not this person drowns. It's like no, it takes so long to get to Fun Island. I mean, can you be any lazier than calling it Fun Island, where all this resort of these people are there and like I don't care. I was so bored. I was so
Oh.
bored with this.
Is it that they
movie.
try to take it seriously? Because I mean, it's like some scenes they're trying to be serious, then in other scenes you have the black guy with Paige Kennedy who's also trying to do like his best Tyrese impersonation throughout the course of the film, and I'm like,
And he's
is it supposed
prepared.
to be a serious movie? Because I don't
He's-
feel like it's
Yeah,
He's
he's
the Ice
prepared.
Cube character from Deep Blue Sea. Okay, he's the token black character we used to
Ice-
see all the time.
You mean
He-
LL
he's the
Cool
black
J?
guy on the cast that goes, "Oh hell no!" Like that's
Exactly.
I
But
mean,
but he was prepared, and he had trained and all of this. I'm going, what is this?
And he's got
I
the big
actually
gun.
thought
Watch out!
I was gonna say part of the reason I think that the critics gave the solo scores because they made the black guy pro 2A and he's got the poison tipped bullets and stuff. I'm like,
Well,
yeah,
You're reading way
one
too much
thing that I
into this.
do actually think was
And-
done well about the character, they actually explained why he has the skills he has in this movie. Because we all, or from the previous one, dude could barely swim. He was freaking
Right.
out all the time. He was fatter than a fucking whale. And
Mhm.
now he's freaking, lost a lot more weight. He's kicking the shit out of mercenaries, and he's pro 2A, and it's like, and then he's like, after that shit, and they wanted me to back, so it's like I went and got survival training and learned all sorts of stuff, and it's like, that's
Yes.
proper. That is proper movie making, where you
the
actually
fairy
do
godmother did a little bit
Where
with
you
the
actually-
info dump. But they
yeah,
didn't
where you
Gary's
actually
do 'em.
do take a character, give them a new set of skills, but you also make sure that the audience knows this is why they know that.
And how was that done? Was it done through expositional dialogue in the laziest fucking way possible? Okay.
Sure.
Yes,
But
like I said, they
it
they
still
info-
worked.
they-
I know. and
they
it's an action
fairy
movie,
godmother
and it's
did, but
supposed
it's not
to,
a
keep it going. I get it.
yeah, and it's at least it's kind of funny in that like you didn't expect it sort of way. So
So
But they also
They
kept it short
subverted
and
our
sweet. It only
expectations.
took like not even 20 seconds for him to explain it.
So
Yeah,
the Chinese actor, I've actually have seen him in one film before. He was on a film called, I'm not sure if you guys have heard of this, called The Wandering Earth, where it's a Chinese movie about apparently climate change or some nonsense like that has attacked Earth, and we literally need to take the entire planet and literally shift it somewhere to like Saturn, so that way we can actually keep the same like atmosphere or something like that, or else the whole planet is going to be destroyed. And it's this nonsensical premise where China has to be the country that saves the entire world from itself by literally moving Earth away from the sun towards like. So I'm like, what are we even doing here? Like in this
Wasn't-
film.
well,
that's a
wasn't that the same
Futurama
thing?
plot line.
Well, wasn't that the same thing in Independence Day Resurgence, where we needed the Chinese on the moon to save us?
It was
It's the same
it was
process
a whole
over and over
world that
again.
was
It's-
on the moon. There
it's
was a
the s-
world government.
They say every single movie, especially with the Chinese, is like, oh, it's one of those films where, hey, everyone in the world needs to come together and consolidate to one world government, and we need
Yeah.
to save ourselves because the sun is going to explode because climate science or something like that, and China needs to be the hero because they're the ones that are putting money into this film, and then it's the same cut and paste thing that we've seen over and over again.
I mean,
so.
how'd they get the Earth to Saturn? Was it
Of
like
course
this-
you did. Where's my button? Hold on, get my button here.
You fucking mark!
Be nice to Sarah.
That's a new one. But yeah, how did they get it to Saturn? Did they just put on this huge fucking hyperdrive or whatever?
No, they got all the robots to like fart at the same time.
No, they I'm not even making this up. They somehow use like ships to pull the gravitational, like they literally pulled the Earth out of its gravitational pull and literally moved it all the way to the solar system. It made no sense whatsoever.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fucking weird. Anyway,
It's
here's
a
the thing.
Futurama
If you
plot line.
really wanted to cool the Earth down, all you would do is actually have to bring it closer to Mars's orbit.
Don't
if you
ask.
wanted to cool it down, all you have to do would be just
Take it to
explode a
Mars
few
orbit.
volcanoes.
You would actually, yeah, that too. But
The
taking it
CGI
to
was
Mars
not
orbit,
good.
you drop
Stop
the
saying that. It wasn't.
Sarah's now
Bullshit.
just being a contrarian. I mean, she's
Mhm.
deliberately just needling us. She hasn't seen the movie. You know, for someone who criticizes us for mocking that musical Star Trek episode, which she now thinks is the
Yeah.
Citizen Kane of Star Trek, now she goes on and says, "Oh, the CGI was great." Yeah, but you haven't seen it, Sarah. So
There's a reason why Sarah won't show her face here right now because she knows she would get bullied relentlessly right now if she was to show.
I
her
will
face.
say this: there are a couple scenes in this movie where the CGI is actually pretty tight.
There's a couple of scenes, and you notice like whenever it's in like proper focus, where they don't have to like move around too much, they can like sharpen it a lot better. And then another thing that you notice with a lot of these films, like they always have to like darken the atmosphere in order to hide the glaring issues with like the CGI too. So it's like we saw this with multiple films, like Black Panther 2 did this as well, where everything's so dark you can barely see, but that's their way of kind of like hiding or doing less work to make the effects look better, but if they just put everything in the dark. So
it's curious that Ebert and Siskel and Ebert made that same comment about Godzilla, the Matthew Broderick version, where they said yes, it takes place at a lot of the action takes place at night and in the rain because it makes it easier. It makes it easier to
blend.
film these. Yes,
I mean,
they're still doing it. This is a nothing new. This is
So let me ask you guys this, because there was this tease here of like this giant octopus. They called it. They didn't even outright call it a kraken. It was just some massive octopus that was down there. They even honestly they didn't really like play it up much at all. It's like it just escaped, and then it showed up at the very end of the movie, and then it was all like, oh my god, what is that? It was like no one really cared too much. But is this where we're gonna go now? It's like we have to like up the ante because now we've taken away the awe of megalodons now. So what's the next movie? It's gonna be Megalodons versus Cthulhu, like, or where are we going here with this?
Well,
They're gonna bring
the thing
Godzilla
is-
back.
Godzilla versus Mothra.
They
Yeah, but this is
actually-
Chinese though, so they can't do Godzilla because Japan won't allow it.
Well, I mean, on the
That's
it's like
again,
the-
sorry.
in the
That's okay. I
in the
actually was
novel,
I kept waiting for Mecha Melodon to show up. So
the novels
Well-
actually do have a wider range of creatures, because originally, before the Megs even showed up, they actually had Chronosaurs. They also had there's also a hint of a shark that is even larger, that would actually bite a megalodon in half. I mean, they hint at even bigger things in the novels. So chances are, yes, they will even have something that is far larger than a Meg. I mean, the Megs in this one were big, sure, but it's like there's still possibly something out there that could turn a Meg into
see, that's
nothing.
the other thing that bothered me,
For a
just
sequel.
yeah, well, just real quick, it's like the megalodons are supposed to be massive, but they don't like they keep like screwing with like the scale of how big the megalodon is supposed to be versus how big or how small our human characters are. Because when you see the megalodon, it's moving like through screen, but you don't see it compared to like anything else. So there's no real scale comparison, just how massive these things are. Up to like, I guess you could say the very end, you can argue, but you don't get too much of that.
Yeah, I mean, there is scaling issues, definitely.
came out last year.
There's this. No, but yes, there are scaling issues. However, they also did a good job at keeping which sharks are which because when there's a shark that's chasing after Jason Statham onto the pier, where he's stopped or where it's halted by the chains, everybody thought that was the major, huge one, but in honesty, that was actually the smaller one, not the domesticated one, but the smaller of the two wilder ones.
Not the Megalodon version of Blue. Is that what you're saying?
Essentially, yeah.
Sorry, I'm just reading the plot for the Wandering Earth 2. I'll talk about that in a second here. But,
I'll wait. I'll wait until it's featured on like TCM imports.
Yeah,
I mean,
good luck with that one. Ain't gonna
yeah.
happen. But yeah, so I mean, like I said, there just really isn't much here. Like as a film, I mean, you're sitting there and you're watching it, and it's like it depends on how all in on this premise that you are. If you really, really love monster movies, this is a decent film. Like I guess, I mean, it's nothing to write home about. But if that's all you're paying your money to go see, you're not going to be too disappointed by anything. But like I said, it's Chinese back, which means the quality is not there. They're all in for the spectacle of this. Jason Statham doesn't punch nearly enough people in the face as you would expect him to do in this movie. And the other characters, all the other secondary characters, are just like completely like who cares? Like even the villain of this film, Sienna, she's only in it for a handful of scenes, and I mean at least she goes out with a decent death. But I mean, like I said, she had no real
Wasn't
impact
graphic enough for
outside
me.
of being just evil capitalist lady. Like that was
Evil
pretty
white
much her whole
capitalist
Okay,
lady.
yeah.
the way the human beings move in the water in this fucking movie, like they're action heroes, or like it's just kind of like, okay, sure, whatever. Who cares?
Oh, okay. This is something
Like-
that we need to rant about just real quick. The whole scene where Jason Statham, like, so they're in like the floor of like the ocean, right?
Yeah.
And they're trying to escape, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is the escape pods are gone, and we need to figure out how we're gonna get out of here. It's like, oh, well, you're gonna have to swim to the other side where we just came in through, but you're gonna have to breathe through your sinuses because that's the only way that you can survive the bottom of this ocean. Like, first of all, I'm thinking to myself, wouldn't the pressure of like a human being being
Yes.
down there with no suit like absolutely mangle him to begin
Yeah.
with?
Yes.
Like keep in mind, they're not
Crush
just
him.
at like the regular bottom of the ocean. Like they're in the trench. Like they're in where like literally only the megalodons and all the other deep sea creatures can be at right now. But Jason Statham is such a badass. He's gonna breathe through his what is it, the sinuses,
He's
and
taking-
blood's coming out of his nose underwater and stuff like that. And he has to like.
Yeah, well, look, he's taking his diving skills and just using them to the nth degree there. Because I believe he was like a professional, like a diver before he became an action star. He's not an actor; he's an action star. There is a difference there. But again, what do I always say in situations like that? What do I always say, Roberto?
We don't care because the plot is bullshit anyway. So it doesn't matter if it creates a reason.
I mean,
Yeah.
believe me,
plot
when I
requires
saw
it
that,
to.
I'm like, okay, now you're full of shit.
Well, I will say I hated this because he got rescued by the villain.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was the part that I was like, okay, I was expecting something a little smarter here.
That's the other really dumb part where it's like,
you wanted to
keep
kill
in
this
mind,
guy.
not only that was stupid, but then it was like the other stupid part is when the megalodon eats the white girl who was like the bad girl working for the capitalist chick, and then he smashes like the entire corridor of like the undersea lab. But somehow this guy managed to outrun the water that would have been rushed in and completely swept him away. Outran it, and then not only that, closed the door behind him as he was outrunning the rushing water. That's like, dude, get out
You know,
of here.
Yeah.
it's almost a bit like that line from Gone with the Wind, just before Atlanta burns and Scarlett was about to rush back to close the door. Rip
Mhm.
Butler laughs at her and says, "What are you laughing at? You locking the Yankees out." I mean, that's basically what it was. But look, that's in the trailer, so it's not a surprise when she's like, "Oh, it's fine." Whoever she's talking
It's
to,
Meg proof.
yeah, yes, and I'm going, "Look, we know what's going to happen." I mean, don't even
I-
bother saying that.
I will say I have not seen the full trailer. I didn't watch anything with this. I was just like, okay, I have a night off. I'm gonna go to the movies and come on to Jacob's show and like spruce up the place here like a woman should. Okay.
Mhm.
So I didn't know that was
Dust the
coming.
shelf.
And I will say I laughed. I laughed when that happened. So,
But I was
another
that's-
reason
but
the
that's
critics
predictable.
hated this was because the white woman was the bad girl.
But that was so predictable. And look, with the villainess, what indication did we get that she was the villainess? Really, at the beginning, she pops up,
Her
talks
name
about.
is Hillary. Her first name is Hillary. That's enough.
Oh my gosh,
That
it
is
to
true.
someone who didn't vote. Hey, I just worry about your guys. Just be careful what you say out there, because there might be some sort of hit squad allegedly of
Bring it.
murdering.
I figure like that I'm the guy that they show the alien pictures to like prove that I'm nuts and they're not lying. So I should be okay.
But no, we got no indication that there was some sort of conspiracy or sabotage going on until, oh yes, we need a villain, and of course it's going to be the business partner that
Yeah.
we met once.
Because the megalodon isn't enough of a villain for this film. We know we need the capitalism is bad villain because
Well,
Chinese money.
And anyone
bad though. Like it's not like a moral good. It's a moral necessity.
Mhm.
Well, there was the
All
indication-
corporations are bad unless they're run by the Chinese Communist Party.
Serious question. Serious question.
Yeah.
Who here really thinks that the Chinese government is leading the environmental movement and is saving
Nobody.
the environment?
They violate the Paris
really,
shit all the time.
really. So,
Yeah,
so
they're like
how
the worst
are
leaders in
the
Rome.
Chinese going to portray themselves as the saviors of the environment? I mean, unless they're trying to hoodwink their people even more. That's just such a patent absurdity, just on any level.
But to counter your point, you got to actually pay attention to actually notice it. The indication that she might be a villain was actually when her lackey was at the party giving or staring at her the entire time while she was giving that speech.
Really, I was supposed to stare at the city manager in worshipful, an adornment, and
Yeah.
when I turned my back and booed him, that was worse than the Walmart shooter. So I was told. So I don't know.
Well, I'm
what
glad
that-
you're
It's
not taking it
essentially-
personally.
It's
No,
essentially a small hint that they might be in cahoots.
or there might be lovers. How would I know?
Well, it's very clear that they're not lovers because that dude was whining like a little bitch after the traitorous one on Mountain One got eaten.
Well,
Because she's like, "Are you crying?"
Maybe she likes submissive men. I don't know at this point. I mean, I had no interest at that party because they went on about how Jason Statham can't wear a bow tie and taking selfies. Like, I'm not taking selfies with this person. I have no idea who this person is. I don't care.
Well,
It's
here's
not.
another.
Well, I mean, like you're not supposed to care, Rick. It's for clout. Okay.
I mean, here's another thing. Did anybody notice that the crazy bitch from the first movie that had a dog that somehow miraculously survived an encounter with a Meg? That crazy bitch owned Fun Island.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, that's
you ruined my
probably-
wedding. Pippin, come back here. It's that one from the first movie. She owns Fun Island, and it's like,
Well,
why
they
did you
needed
bring this woman back?
they needed to pay her off for the damages from the first film, so she just took her investments and created this nice resort. I mean, that's I'm trying to find
I think they
logic.
should have killed the dog.
Such a
They should have
stupid,
killed the fucking dog.
terrible movie.
I mean,
Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so this is the only way that they can up the ante for part 3. It's like literally going to have to go up against Leviathan. That's
Okay, well,
Is that gonna be? You could put that in.
this
in
is like a
future
terrible
Bible,
version of Pacific Rim. Okay, that's what this is. It's just
I
like-
actually
that
thought
good.
this was a better sequel to
And look,
The Meg versus Pacific Rim Uprising.
I don't like these movies. So, but like Pacific Rim is probably the best version of this kind of movie. And I'm still like, okay, so we don't have any sense of character. I mean, there's the heartwarming scene where he's just like, Jason Statham tells his daughter he loves her and whatever. And that's, but it's not built.
was
on
that his
anything.
daughter
That's
or was
not
that
his
just the girl
daughter.
for
No,
the
his
his-
adopted
It's his
or he-
stepdaughter.
That's how much
Stepdaughter.
I was paying attention.
Yeah.
So yeah, there
Yeah.
you
Well,
go.
I mean, it's not like
Um,
something that you would know unless you watched the first film, anyways.
Yeah,
I say
well,
I know what half Asian kids look like, and that chick was not half Asian.
Yeah,
No,
she
she
looks full
was-
Asian. But
She was
She
full.
was the lady who died's daughter. And
Dude, the Meg would die from indigestion. Let's just say that the Meg would die. Lizzo would win by death and revenge.
Yeah, I wonder how much potassium will be used in that battle.
Lizzo would win
Holy
by playing
fuck,
the
dude.
flute and lulling it to sleep. Okay, so it's gonna be
No,
a gentle
that thing would
death.
eat Lizzo and it would choke on her.
No bananas were harmed in the production of this film.
Although there was one good shot in this movie when they actually show from inside the shark's mouth as it's chomping up people.
well, the Bananas and Pajamas reboot.
It was like the only time in the movie anyone used what could be described as a practical effect. Like,
yeah,
I mean, that was pretty good. And we also did, or a lot of people were like, "Oh my god, he's wielding a sword against a Meg," and I'm like, first off, that didn't even look like
oh,
a
I'm
sword."
sorry, you didn't like it when he literally killed the Meg with a giant spear. Well, it wasn't even a spear; it's like some broken.
It was an
part of, like,
explosive
the
tip
airplane.
harpoon.
Yeah. No, no, I'm talking about the last one where he literally took like the was it the blade
Oh, he
of
took
like the
he took a
helicopter
piece
and
of a machine, or he took a piece of scrap from the sub
Mhm.
and just jammed it right in the damn thing's eye. But he also cut the thing open too. He gutted the thing first, and then he slammed it through its eye.
yeah. I guess we just assumed the other one got taken out by the
I think
Kraken.
the director was just very fond of the particular shots. He loved to turn the camera around a lot.
But real quick, the megalodon that was fighting the Kraken, like they just started biting each other, and then we just don't ever see him again throughout the rest of the movie. So we don't even know technically who won that fight.
Well, they went off together, and
Actually, we
they're
do.
going to mate, and then they're going to create the
The
new.
sharktopus, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to create a new.
Sharktopus.
They're going to create a new
Hey,
creature
that was
that
actually
takes
a
over.
fucking thing on sci-fi.
Sharktopus. Yep.
The shark.
But
We'll
yeah,
get James
the
Bond reboot.
Haiti or whatever its name is, the domesticated Meg actually won against the Kraken. It dragged it down, but it also ripped into it enough to kill it. Even though that thing got a solid grasp on the Meg to the point where it actually covered its gills, that should have killed it. But yeah, second wind and all.
Yep. Anyway, this is a 2 out of 5 movie for me. Maybe it's a 2 out of 5 because I didn't muster up enough energy to even hate this movie. So that's my glowing endorsement of the Meg 2. Rick, what'd you give it?
A 1 out of 5. But I probably would still watch this over Joyride or Book Club. Yeah,
that
those
goes
were
without saying. Because
yeah,
Joyride was a giant piece
yeah.
of
But
ass.
this was a disappointment because I was hoping that it'd be very self-aware and campy fun. But it's a 1 out of 5.
Rob.
Yeah, it's also a 1 out of 5 for me. Oh boy. Look, this might end up in like the bottom of my worst of the year, but it's there's a lot more movies that are deserving of hate or just outright derision. This is it's just a stupid oh, I don't know. I place it in, I guess, with Fast X, except Fast X is way more obnoxious, way more grating on my nerves. So this just was a very kind of boring time at the movies that just didn't engage me in any way. But it's certainly not the worst movie I've seen this year. I can say that.
Another glowing endorsement.
Yep.
There you go. Johnson.
I'll give it a 3 out of 5 because it's about family. Okay, and yep, you can't. For what it's worth, I tell my kids all the time, you can't judge people by their governments. So the fact that like the uncle and the father both get to be heroes, even though they're kind of like wacky hero, kind of MacGyvering it sometimes, or just like I said, like punching shark or something. It's goofy. It's goofy fun. I think that the black guy being, the very godmothered past the Gary Stu phase, getting the big gun. I actually wanted the gun. I thought that was really cool. And the white woman getting bitten right out of the window, the bad guy being a woman. I can understand why a lot of critics hated this movie, just from a meta perspective. And like I said, they tried to make it this action horror family kind of movie, and I don't think they did a great job for sure, but they didn't do a terrible job. And it's a nice film that you go in, turn off your brain, and enjoy it. And then you go home and you get on a podcast and you talk with it about your friends.
Orange.
I always do 3 tiers. Objectively, I would say this movie is around a 7 out of 10. There is a lot of problems with it. CGI is kind of bad in some areas, however, it's tight in other areas, so it's inconsistency there. Inconsistent story and terrible writing in other areas.
Yes, they didn't even finish the one with the. Sorry.
Go ahead.
They didn't finish the storyline with the superconductors.
Like, yeah, they didn't. Probably gonna make a splash in the third one, but they also, or there's also, domesticating a megalodon. You went completely out of the realm of reality there.
It happened early.
true, but all or subjectively, I actually put this more at an 8.5 out of 10. Um, I I enjoyed it for the most part. It is a turn your brain off for the most part kind of film that you could just waste time or passing the time for. It's definitely useful in that way. Moviegoer, if you're looking for something that you really don't want to, or if you really just want to have a nice monster shark kind of film, this is a movie that is more of a 10 out of 10 out of entertainment factor. It's it's kind of just so bad it's good kind of entertainment wise. But a person did ask me one or earlier, it's like, would you say it's woke? It's like, thing is, they didn't market this movie in any sort of woke fashion. However, this movie is agenda driven because it is very much anti-capitalist with how they wrote the villain. And I mean, you can't get much more anti-capitalist
it'd be fair. Like I said, it's a movie produced by commies, so
yeah, you can't get much more anti-capitalist from. Yeah, we're just here to fucking make money. We don't give a fuck about the ecosystem. I mean, we're gonna make $1 billion and we don't care. They literally say that in the movie as the villains, and it's like,
is there any
China.
more projecting of a country than China when it comes to that?
No, not
Well,
really.
see,
I mean,
actually
China really
think
it throws or makes their point known.
like in the large scheme of things, okay, if you like with this, you can have the ultra capitalist sort of villain and it works. Okay,
Yeah, you can.
it's fine. It just happens. I know it happens a lot with movies like this. So.
And the way that they do it is that their greed is the reason behind their death.
Yeah.
And that's basically what happens in this movie. I mean, except that in this more politically charged climate of reality today, it is far more obvious of what that agenda was. But honestly, I thought The Meg was not overtly terrible. So I actually did enjoy myself watching the film.
I will say that I believe it was Deng Xiaoping who said, "It is glorious to be rich." Just throwing it out there.
I have no idea who that person is, so I don't know the context.
I think there's a
He was a
there's a
successor
point where,
to Chairman Mao.
well, there's a point like where you value money and things and potential for the money and things more than human life, and that you don't have to be a capitalist to realize that's wrong. So.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, one of my favorite movies, Goodfellas. Like, there's this great point, and Scorsese does this with all of his movies, but the whole like where Henry, as like a teenager, sees a guy who's like shot, and he gives him like 8 aprons, to clot the blood to cover up the gunshot, and he just gets yelled at. It's like, you're costing people money is the ultimate crime, not, and like helping this person, even though you think it's the right thing, it's like in that world it's a sin to waste money or to waste this resource on this guy who you don't know. He's not a part of your club. And yeah, so I think that's a very very interesting perspective, which can be done a lot better.
Yeah. It could have been done a lot better. I mean, the writing alone was atrocious in this.
Yeah, but I mean, like that's class warfare, though, too. So
yeah,
sure.
A lot of people who are living in communist countries will see this as, oh, capitalist bad because rich and I'm poor and they're the reason I'm poor. So it'll give them an extra reason to root for her death.
Well, I guess I should recommend this movie to my Democratic Socialist friend who has finally come out of the
Would you please shut the hell up?
She has come out of the closet.
What?
It's a good thing nobody heard that. Let's go ahead and end this show. Next week, next Friday night, we're going to be starting this show a little bit earlier. We're going to be on at 9 p.m. Next week. And our movie of the week will be Heart of Stone. It will be the Gal Gadot Netflix film that will come out next week. It's supposed to be the big hype. It's like, well, it's a female-led action film, and we're going to do one that doesn't just pander on identity politics. So let's see if she actually did a good job with this movie or if it's just like the rest of them. So that's our film next week, letting you guys know. So We'll go ahead and let you guys run out here and show your crap so we can get on out of here. Orange, what you got coming up?
Well, I have MCU Sunday on Sunday with the Hat Crew. We're doing Thor Ragnarok. Monday, I am doing my mystery review instead of Tuesday because I got surgery coming up. I got the mystery review and the that evening I got the Sharknado 3 review. And Wednesday I'm going to be off or not doing any content because I'm going to be in recovery. And Thursday I'm going to be doing singles with my friend Mara Jade, where we are discussing Dog Soldiers.
Alrighty then, CJ.
Just this is my Twitter handle, so you can come follow me there. And I'll be on the Barroom podcast this Tuesday, and I'll actually be on the MCU panel too. And I got a comic book coming out next month, but you can buy my other books in the meantime. So go to Twitter, follow all the links. Did I do better this time?
You got to work on your ability to chill. I mean, it's just pathetic at this point.
I get tired of chilling. So
She's like, what's his name from Transformers? What is it, like 3? Buy my book!
That's not good enough for Jacob. So how many books of mine have you bought, Jacob? Huh?
How many have you given me, CJ?
A lot of them are free. So I do first in the series free. So you can get like 4 of them right now for free.
Rob saved the show.
Yeah, trying to find one of C.S. Johnson's books that aren't fantasy or sci-fi. That's the challenge. But yeah, no, it's okay. I just haven't looked hard enough currently. Dog Soldiers is a movie I actually have in my to-be list that I've been meaning to watch for a while. So there's that. I wrote about 1,000 words on Oppenheimer that I was pretty happy with. So I'm going to be reposting that to my Twitter a couple times here over the next week. And I'm just, continuing to watch movies. Started a new job, so I'm a little less active on Twitter, but I'm still pretty much on there every day. So you can see all of my thoughts and terrible attempts at jokes there. And just check it out.
And Rick.
Just my weekly haikus. Trying to write more reviews and doing the series to coincide with Turner Classic Movie Summer Under the Stars, where I try to write a review based on on a movie by that particular star. Change that, Jacob, right now.
Change what?
That cotton picking Mexican thing. I don't like it. Change it.
You the one brought it up.
No, I didn't bring it up. I was trying to make a comparison, and now it's being twisted completely around. Change it. Change it. Change it. I don't like it. So I'll just So I'm trying to write reviews to coincide with the star. Today I posted the one for Jackie Cooper, which is The Champ, a movie that I do highly recommend. And so I'm just going to try to do that for some other stars that are being featured on TCM. I have some that are going to be published. I have some that I have to write. And that's pretty much it. My haikus and my reviews. Change it, Jacob.
I already did change it.
No, that's not helpful. Change it.
All right, so what do I got coming up? Monday night on the Bible Lens podcast, we're bringing all of our guys back. I think Sheila Aliens and Cider might join us this week because we're talking about AI, central bank digital currencies. Is this the image of the beast? Is this the system of the beast? We'll talk about that in good detail on Monday night, so join us for that discussion. Tuesday, episode 60 of the Barroom podcast will be coming out this week. And then, like I said, next Friday night, we'll be back here again to talk about the new Gal Gadot movie. So letting you guys, quick little shout out to our guys who are in the chat right now. Dark Scorpio, Sarah was there, I guess. Just give Sarah a shout out. Yolanda Gaines, who else we got? Duke Nukem. Rooftop Korean, Doba Fett joining us here tonight, and we'll make sure I got everybody else on Rumble as well. So for everyone who joined us on this Friday night, we thank you. Hopefully we'll see you guys on a Monday, Tuesday, or on next Friday night. I'm gonna go ahead and hit our new outro, which Rick also hasn't seen because he hasn't been here in a while. So we're going to hit the outro, get on out of here. Good night, everyone. Adios. Bye-bye.
Night.
It's over. Go home.
Get the hell out! Get out! Get out! Get out! Okay. Get out! Get out! You get